Hey everyone, it's Dana Peever, the Decision Smith. How are you? Welcome to episode 5 of our pre-launch videos. Again, if you haven't been keeping up to date, episode 1 is a great place to start. It talks about what topics we are looking at covering over our 2-week time period. Today we're going to jump right in where we left off yesterday. And yesterday we were talking about the benefits of making a pros and cons list as you make a decision, and how it could actually lead you to have a little regret as well. So in looking at the pros and cons list, like I said, you're really relying on your brain not to trick you into making one side of your list longer than the other, to make it easier for you to choose perhaps the decision or the solution that your brain is telling you is the best one to choose at this point in time. So what I want you to question as you're making your pros and cons list is, are they actually your pros and cons? Because if you go back to one of the earlier videos where we were talking about the different kinds of decision makers, we've got the researcher, we've got the interrogator, we've got the debater. If you've done so much research and you just have so much information floating around in your brain, or you've talked to so many people who offered varying opinions, or you debated what you should do moving forward and maybe didn't necessarily land on anything, it's really hard for you to kind of unjumble what are your distinct thoughts versus someone else's now. So it takes a little bit of an extra effort for you to be able to even get back to square one and start making your decision without all the noise in your brain. So that's what I love so much about the system that I use. And again, I told you it kind of works with a pros and cons list in the similarities that you will be writing down factors that you're taking into consideration. But when you write them down, you're actually writing them in a neutral tone. So again, let's go back to the example we were using yesterday about career. When you're making choices about a career, you're not going to put great salary or long commute. You might do that if you're making a pros and cons list. But if you use the Decision Smith system, you're actually just putting down really the noun, the factor that you're taking into consideration. So you would take into account the commute. You don't look at it as a positive or a negative. That's just one of the things that you're going to take into consideration if you're going to take this job or not. Certainly you're going to look at salary, probably benefits, the culture. Gosh, there's so many factors that I could list. But again, those are all in neutral terms so that you can go back afterwards and look at those particular factors and determine how important they are to you right now as you're making this decision, without having kind of a preconceived bias tricking your brain. So, it really, it's not going to remove all the bias that you have, but it will really help you be very specific and intentional in your thought process as you're making these decisions, so that you're not letting yourself be swayed one way or the other by the tone and the language that you're using as you're creating your lists to be able to move forward and make the decision. So that's the tidbit of info that I wanted to share with you today. Stay tuned for tomorrow when we wrap up our discussion on using a pros and cons list in your decision making. Hope you have a great day. I'm Dana Peever, the Decision Smith.